So let's shift a bit then now to talk about a little bit more about Amazon. So working with these large brands, I'm assuming that you know you get a lot of insights, especially because you're working with so many different businesses, as opposed to head down focusing on just your own company, which is what most of the people listening to this podcast would be doing. So what have you found as like some overall main key points that have helped? And maybe we can talk about some of those as you go along.
The path to growing a large company. Obviously, these big consumer brands, they might have been in business for decades, or have some unique edge that it isn't possible to replicate overnight. But still, I think that there's a lot of really interesting lessons that smaller companies can learn from larger ones. I kind of have five main points on this topic.
Mhm.
So larger brands are always looking to add new products to their assortment. They're always looking at ways to grow and diversify their business, and one of those is through expanding their assortment, looking at new marketplaces, looking at new channels. As we know, Amazon takes their doesn't always make decisions based on a lot of information or reasoning sometimes, and they can shut one of your listings down. And if that one product accounts for more than, if it accounts for a big percentage of your sales, you're in a really hard spot.
Okay, and so what are some other big things that you've seen working with these larger brands?
Yeah, so we touched on this a little bit before, but not relying on one platform. And Amazon's given entrepreneurs a big gift in the last few years with the FBA program. It's made it so simple to access millions of people and do so very simply through the FBA program. But it's very risky, in my opinion, to be relying on one channel. It's better to look at being an Amazon seller as just one of many ways that your brand can reach customers. And Amazon doesn't give you the ability to remarket to customers. It doesn't give you the ability to email them like campaigns, or do even really find out who they are or segment them in any way. So you can do all that if you're building an online store with a separate email list and stuff like that. You can't do that with Amazon. So there's for sure it takes more time and investment to build up traction in other channels, but it's really necessary to build a business that stands on its own and isn't an Amazon FBA business. Inventory forecasting and very close inventory management, and this is not a sexy topic. This isn't fun. This isn't interesting like PPC. It's not interesting like optimizing product listings and split testing and post-purchase email sequence. Inventory management seems so dry, but it could seriously be one of the biggest factors in your annual sales. I just created some simple models recently to look at what the effect of stockouts would be on a company that does $1,000 a day in sales and then saw an increase over the 3-month holiday period. If you're out of stock for just 2 weeks over the holidays, that would cost you almost 9% in revenue loss for that whole year. It's in Amazon's best interest to make PPC a good channel for sellers. So Amazon's investing in that program. It started off as super basic, and for anyone that's familiar with AdWords, it still is super basic, but they're always adding new features and reporting to it over time. So if I was looking at where I'd be investing either my time personally or my money, it would be on developing a PPC capability for my brand.
Mm-hmm. Well, what are you seeing that gets the best results?
Yeah, I think it's on a case by case basis as we work with clients, and it depends if they've already been running their own campaigns. If they have, then we can look back and do an audit of their existing campaigns and see where the opportunities are. And I think one of the biggest opportunities that we usually see is overspending on some campaigns that are just not profitable or not well optimized, or they just have low budgets set for PPC and actually pretty good ACOS, advertising cost of sales, and they just don't recognize that if they're putting $1 in and getting $8 out in sales, if they kept putting more money into ad spend, their sales could double, triple, or more. So that's probably the biggest opportunity. That's super simplistic. It's very difficult to sort of everything's sort of on a case by case basis, but those are two of the big opportunities we usually see. They outsource things, right? So I only really see the people who are willing to and ready to start outsourcing part or all of their Amazon management to another company. But and maybe you're in a situation where you know Amazon really well. You've been working on that system for months or years, so you don't need to outsource things like product launches or PPC or anything like that. But what about outsourcing the other things that could grow your brand and exposure? It's things like hiring someone who's a specialist in Etsy so you can get on that marketplace, or hiring someone who's a expert in Pinterest and getting them to help boosting your content marketing strategy. Looking at what your strengths are personally or as a business, where some opportunities are, and recognizing that you're not necessarily going to do a great job of executing every one of those opportunities, and it might be worthwhile outsourcing that to an expert.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, I think that's especially what's interesting is that most people listening to this, they're going to be coming from the standpoint of Amazon is their bread and butter. That's what they started on. And so, yeah, they haven't, in many cases, haven't even thought about what to do next, or maybe they have, and it's daunting because there is already so much they can do on Amazon, if only to just, launch new products.
Maybe a decision that you need to make is, do you want to work with an individual consultant who will handle everything for you on a one-on-one basis and you kind of have to manage them? Or do you want to work with an agency that does this all day, every day, and they have a process and they have a team and you're accessing different levels of people on the team? So with BOBSLED Marketing, my agency, if we're working with a client, typically you're going to have a project manager, a PPC specialist, an account specialist. Like you kind of tap into several people with different areas of expertise, and that's what you get with an agency experience versus if you're working with one-on-one with a consultant, there's great benefits from doing things that way as well. But
awesome. Well, Kiri, thanks so much for coming on, and I'm glad that we were able to make it work. And I'm looking forward to people listening to this and sharing their feedback. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Chris.